People of the internet! This video here comes from NBC News entitled Gen Z Fears the American Dream Might Be Out of Reach.
If you're in your 40s and you're making $100,000, maybe you got a kid at home, are you going to feel successful?
It just depends.
I'm going to probably need a little bit more just because of the cost of living.
If you're in your 40s and you're making $200,000, will you feel successful?
Yeah, I think that would clear it.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
The American dream, now more costly than ever.
Raise your hands if you're making $300,000 in your 40s. Will you feel successful?
Yeah.
Yes.
And even that might not be enough for some, with a recent poll showing that the average Gen Zer says they'll need more than $500,000 a year to feel successful.
I don't think our generation can budget their way out of this crisis.
25-year-old Emma Edney was recently working in consulting and now looking for a new job. Jaden Thompson, 22, an aspiring UFC fighter, works in waste management. McGregor Graham is 27 and works in media. Jarlene Rivera is a 21-year-old pharmacy technician and content creator.
Raise your hands. How many of you have watched what's been going on with the markets? I'm sure your investments weren't doing well this last week.
Nah, but it wasn't. But at the end of the day, you always got to stick to the plan. Our president is trying to make a change, and I believe he will, I'm not really concerned about it. He's a businessman.
I feel like the long-term effect is just going to be the world at large taking our kind of trade stuff much less seriously.
With young adults hitting major life milestones like marriage and financial independence later in life, there's anxiety over whether the American dream is achievable for them.
Do you feel like hard work pays off now?
It's really hard to say.
Our generation is starting behind, loaded with student loans, higher interest rates, housing costs exploding.
Finding a spot to rent in the city is hard, and with mortgage rates going up again, buying a home seems out of reach. A survey published last year showed nearly a third of Gen Z adults, under 26 at the time, still lived with their parents.
I'll walk past a real estate place and just see listings, and I'm just that's an amount of money that just seems like I can't even imagine. It feels kind of insurmountable.
Every time I get paid, it's either my car payment I have to pay in car insurance, and then on top of that, phone bill. So it's so much at once hitting me, and then my credit card that I have to pay off.
Jarlene and Jaden are engaged and planning for their future.
We're trying our best to just stay with our parents and not waste so much at a time, but I don't know.
It's hard to see a path.
Hard to see a path right now, especially with the amount that I'm getting paid.
Jarlene overwhelmed, but her fiancé optimistic, tying their future financial success to personal effort.
Where's your confidence coming from?
Just keep on working, stay disciplined.
While Emma and McGregor feel the barriers are systemic.
If the cost of childcare isn't lowered, if the cost of housing isn't lowered, if honestly, overall healthcare, it's on us to be our own retirement plans. I think there's an assumption that Gen Z is ungrateful, difficult to work with, expecting things that we don't deserve. And the reality is much of our generation is working really hard.
They still have some hope in the American dream.
I know that this is a country where people can achieve their dreams. It's just getting harder and harder to do that.
For these young adults just starting their own lives, the uncertainty is inescapable.
Interesting, folks. Interesting. Again, all these worries that Gen Z has, the millennials have it too. The millennials, I don't know who has it worse, the millennials or Gen Z. Yeah, I know there's always a narrative that Gen Z, could at times can seem ungrateful or can seem out of touch with reality and how things could, really are, whatever the case is. But I think that's all subjective. But yeah, same story, same narrative, man. Things are just getting harder and harder to afford. And, there's always a saying that the generations before are always supposed to be the ones that passes the baton, a firm baton, to the generation after us to see to it that we don't repeat toxic cycles. But right now, it seems like the boomers are fizzling out, right? And millennials don't necessarily have as much infrastructure in place to be able to be those solid providers or guides, I guess, to the generation behind us, because we're both drowning. I think both millennials and Gen Z are drowning. I think Gen Z, or millennials, I should say, speaking for myself, from my personal observation, I think we were the generation that got fed most of the lies. We were told to go to school and get a degree, take out student loan debts, and you'll be assured a job in your field. We were told, certain fields were going to be promising, and then only to find out. And I guess that's maybe inevitable. Nobody could have maybe foresaw that. But technology and just the happenings of the world are having a good percentage of millennials who spend X amount of dollars on their college degrees finding that there are no, jobs within that field, whatever the case is. Debt and starting a family, student loan debt, starting a family, those are all the realities of a lot of different people. Car loans, credit cards, just cost of living in general. It's a lot to deal with for a younger generation who never necessarily had a strong footing behind them based on their based on their upbringing or backgrounds, whatever the case is. So, I don't know. It's scary out here, man. Survival of the fittest. I kind of share the same optimism as well too. Like me personally, like I'm concerned, but I'm not concerned. I feel like, yeah, you're just gonna have to get creative, man. You gotta peep the trends that are happening in the world and kind of play the game. That's kind of what I'm kind of realizing right now. Depending on what your skill sets are, I know it's easier said than done for a lot of different people. People, whether it's going back to school or learning a new trade or whatever the case is, but I would definitely say, more heads are better than one in a lot of situations. I feel like it's important for Gen Z and millennials to understand that you're not in that alone. I feel like the strife, the plight, I should say, I guess, the plight of Gen Z and millennials is shared across a large population. Like, we all are kind of in this thing together. We're all kind of in the same boat. A sinking boat, if you ask me, a boat with a lot of holes, but we're still in this boat together. So, I don't think people should feel discouraged if they're still living with their family or having to revert back to living with mom and dad. I don't think that people should feel discouraged if they have to pick up any type of job in the meantime just to stay afloat. It's not going to look pretty. Survival isn't going to look pretty during these times, man. You got to do what you got to do. Stay focused, put a plan together, because complaining is not necessarily going to do anything. These are things that I tell myself as well too. But yeah, you gotta get unconventional in these times, man. If you were just relying on your degree and a job to reach some type of level of financial success, you might have to look into alternative options. It's basically what our society is telling us right now. The economy and the current social status of the world right now, the politics and everything that's happening in the world, tradition is out the window. We're going to have to find lucrative alternatives to be able to stay afloat out here, because we are all on a sinking ship. But those are just my thoughts, folks. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. As always, the likes, the comments, and subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys on the next one.